Hi, and welcome to the session about managing distributed Firstline workforces with capabilities in the Admin Center. My name is Zoe Hotoff, and I'm a product marketer. And I'm here with Irina today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Irina Parsina, and I'm part of the Microsoft Teams engineering organization. I'm super excited to join you today to take you through the capabilities in the Teams Admin Center.
Today, we're first going to bust a myth around Microsoft Teams for Firstline workers. Then Irina is going to take us through how to manage the Firstline workforce environment so it's more intuitive while also being compliant. And finally, we'll leave you all with some pointers to think through for a successful rollout. So it all starts with your organization deciding to go down the path of expanding your footprint of teams for your Firstline worker. As an IT pro, you start searching for this thing called Teams for Firstline, but you're realizing it's actually not a distinct thing. That's because it's our first myth. Teams for Firstline is not a new product. It's the one you already know. But really, it's just about setting up the right environment to create a light and intuitive experience for your workers. This just by leveraging the same admin center and tools you already know. Since this is, though, a usually larger group of individuals in your organization, it will take a little extra time to make sure it is the right fit for all your workers. Let's take a walk through. When it comes to enabling Firstline workers with Teams, where do you start? If our customers were simply to assign the right license and give access to Teams to their Firstline workers, there's not much of an experience that these workers can expect. Because there's not much there, there's not really a big reason for them to come back, and so you may see lower adoption rates from your workers. So what Irina is going to do is walk you through how to make a rich and stronger Firstline worker experience with those same admin tools that you're familiar with. With that, I'll hand it off to Irina.
Thanks, Zoe. When it comes to crafting the right experience in Teams for your Firstline workers, a great place to start is to ensure that you have the apps that light up the scenarios that matter. There are apps that require no coding and are built specifically to address some of the common challenges faced by Firstline workers. It's apps like in Teams that you find the Shifts app that helps the shifts coordination and time management. We're also talking about examples like the walkie-talkie app in Teams that provides that instant push-to-talk communication, and of course the Praise app that helps drive engagement through recognition. Other no-code options include Microsoft apps and third-party apps that you can find in the App Store. You may also have Firstline worker scenarios that call for capabilities that sit outside the no-code options. You could leverage the Power Platform to develop a Power App and surface it in Teams so that you could use it so that Firstline workers could leverage it both as a personal app in Teams, but also use it as an app among their teammates. You could use the production-ready app templates that are available. These are often referred to as app templates. They're fully community-driven, open source, and available on GitHub. Each of these contains detailed deploy and install instructions. The complete source code is available as well, so you can explore each app in detail or fork the code to alter it to your business needs. This also includes open source connectors to connect the Shifts app to the workforce management system that you may have. Here you'll find connectors for Cronus and JDA. If you have another workforce management system that you'd like to integrate with, or perhaps you're looking to build a truly tailored experience, leveraging line of business systems, you can build custom apps and connectors with code from scratch. We won't be able to do this justice in this session, but we'll share with you where you can learn more about this at the end of the session. So having considered the apps, let's have a look at what controls as an IT or a Teams admin you can use to configure the best Teams experience for your Firstline workers. We'll start in the Teams Admin Center, where under the Manage Apps page, you will find a view where you can manage all the Teams apps for your organization. And that, of course, includes Firstline worker apps. Here you can see org level status and properties of apps, approve or upload custom apps to your organization's app store. You can also block or allow apps at the org level and manage org-wide app settings as well. Let's have a look at an example of how we can allow Shifts app to be enabled for your entire organization. We'll continue to app permissions, where you can start to create a policy specific to your first-line workforce. Controls without permissions, the controls that you can put in place essentially help you define what apps are available to first-line workers. You can allow or block all apps or just specific apps published by Microsoft, third parties, or within your organization. When you block an app, the thing to remember is that first-line workers who have the policy applied are unable to install it to the team from the team's app store. So the app setup policies is something that I'm going to cover next. It really helps you define what apps are pinned to the app bar that first-line workers can find either on the side of the Teams desktop client or at the bottom of the Teams mobile client. You can choose the apps and set the order in which they appear. And we can walk through an example now, which will show us how to set activity, shifts, teams, and the chat apps in that order for a client that a first-time worker in your organization can leverage. So when creating an app setup policy, one of the things that you can do is you can also turn off upload custom apps options. This is very much to ensure that first-line workers are not able to upload custom apps in Teams. You can also choose to turn off allow user pinning. This will essentially help you ensure that when you've the policy that you've defined is not overridden by a first-line worker. And if you want to essentially prevent them from personalizing the app bar by pinning apps to it. On the app setup, the other thing that you'll find is that you can choose what apps you'd like to install on behalf of first-line workers by default when they start Teams. Keep in mind that first-line workers can still install the apps themselves if the app permission policy that we've just covered is assigned to them allows it. Let's move on to the messaging policies. Messaging policies are critical to control what chat and channel messaging features are available for your first-line workers in Microsoft Teams. And are super important when it comes to considering what the experience is going to be like for the workers that you're looking to enable with Microsoft Teams. You may choose to enable read receipts, for example, by default, especially if that's something that your first-line workers are used to. You may also choose to disable chat if you're looking to steer all conversations into channels only. Another setting that offers a much sought after capability is urgent messaging. So urgent messages essentially allow the person who has this policy applied to send urgent messages, and the recipient of those messages will be notified for 20 minutes every 2 minutes until they actually pick up the message. One thing that I would also recommend doing is, for example, disabling things like removing users from group chat. I'm just going to pause here. Another interesting setting that we've just covered, and often one that I find customers really appreciate, is being able to display favorite channels, so in this instance, pin channels above recent chats. This really helps streamline the conversational experience in Teams so that your first-line workers have a single place to come in and access all of the conversations, whether they're structured in channels or just ad hoc in chat. There are other policies that you may find useful to review and consider when it comes to implementing the right experience for your first-line workers. So some of these policies that come to mind include meetings, live events, call-in, call park, call ID, emergency calling, you name it. We have quite a lot of policies, and to simplify and streamline things and to help you provide consistency when managing policies for groups of users across your organization, such as Firstline, we've built predefined policy packages that you're seeing displayed now that I'm sharing. So when you assign this policy package to users, the policies in the package are created, and you can then customize the settings of the policies, like I'm doing in this example for live events. Okay. So we spent a bit of time looking at the apps and also how to control the right settings and the experiences in Teams. Now let's look at building that right foundation for first-line workers by making sure that the Teams and channel structure really works for your first-line worker needs. We'll also look at the importance that a roles within teams like the owner and the member have, especially when it comes to the capabilities that you'd like to empower managers of first line teams, but also you'd like to offer to first line workers. We'll also look at enabling targeting with tags and delve into relevant teams and channel moderation settings. And all this, remember, is very much to create that intuitive and easy to manage environment that will offer the safe boundaries for first-line workers to navigate in. Management tool for teams under the Teams node and Microsoft Teams Admin Center. There you'll find each team you create for each team that you create for your first-line workers is backed by Microsoft 365 Group. For most first-line worker-centric organization, one of the things I wanted to mention is that it is best practice to anchor a team around a physical location. Essentially, what we're trying to do is to recreate that physical environment that they're familiar with Microsoft Teams and channels. Let's have a look at an example team. When we go into a particular team, one of the things to consider, as I mentioned, is the role that an individual plays in the team. We have member and owner roles, and it's often best practice to make the manager of the team, of the first line team, an owner, and to make the first line worker a member in that team. If we're looking at channels are really those dedicated sections within a team to keep that conversation organized. And it could be by a specific topic, project discipline, or a process step. It is best practice to choose one approach and be consistent with it. Overall, across all teams that a first-line worker in your organization may belong to, it is best practice to keep the number of channels that you expect your first-line worker to participate in and go to a minimum. So think about 3 or 5 channels per specific individual in that first-line worker role. So I've just covered a team name as well, and team name, when it comes to naming the team, really consider the team naming conventions you may want to enforce, especially if you have a large first-line population. This can also help with not only with discoverability, but also with scenarios where there is a central function like corporate communication, and you may want to cross-post a post to multiple teams simultaneously with ease. And then being able to search, for example, for every team that begins with the UK in its name is quite helpful. So in the channel settings, the other thing that I wanted to mention is how you can determine whether members can create new channels and edit existing ones. So some of these settings that you that enable members to do something, and if you remember, we've suggested that perhaps for a first-line worker, being a member is a sufficient role. You might also want to consider some of the capabilities that they have in Teams as a member. There's also, when it comes to creating teams, there's also really great team templates to start with. And I'm going to share a couple of places where you can start with team templates using Microsoft Graph. We have a couple of ready set examples, including one for retail as well as onboarding. Which come with predefined channels and Teams properties that are there for you. And now one of the things that I am genuinely very excited about is, as a team admin, in Teams Admin Center, you can also create new custom templates for your organization. This helps you standardize the team structure and surface relevant apps, enabling you to scale effectively across your first line. You can easily create new templates from scratch, modify existing templates, and even templatize an existing team that has proven to work very well for your first-line population. During the creation process, you can define the channel structure, tabs, and apps that make up the new template. And by packaging relevant line of business apps into the template, you can effectively surface them to first-line teams in your organization. Another topic I wanted to cover today is tagging. Tags essentially allow you to target specific individuals and teams. As an admin, you can control how tags are used across your organization. A team can have up to 100 tags. So think of a tag as an attribute that you can assign to an individual in the team. So you can just target communication to that tag, and then essentially anybody who has been tagged with that attribute will get the notification that somebody's trying to reach to them. So as an admin, I mentioned you can control how tags are leveraged across the organization. And a team can have up to 100 tags, and up to 100 team members can be assigned a tag. And up to 25 tags can be assigned to a single user. So I'm going to repeat that because I think I actually got my numbers confused a little bit. So a team can have up to 100 tags, and up to 100 team members can be assigned to a particular tag. And up to 25 tags can be assigned to a single user. So it's important to have a think about how you're leveraging the targeting with tags for your first-line worker communication. So by default, team owners can actually add custom tags themselves. And something that I'm going to talk about in a little bit is an exciting capability which allows you to tag by shift. So we'll cover that in a second. But for now, I wanted to show you how in the admin center, when you go to the org-wide settings under team settings, you'll find under tagging specific settings that you can define. So here you can, for example, decide whether a team owner can override who can apply tags and who can get to manage them. And you can also add some suggested tags which might be relevant to your organization. So something that might be absolutely a consistent tag that you would love for your first line population to leverage. You can also decide whether you want custom tags to be created or not. Now, I wanted to pause here for a second to just, I know I've mentioned team owners and team members quite a bit, but it's super important to understand the capabilities that come with becoming a team owner and the capabilities that come with being a team member. So in the first line scenarios, we often think of team members being first line workers. And some of the things that might be interesting to think about is what are the default rights that team members have when it comes to the teams that they're a member of. So there are some things that you may want to change, such as adding apps or creating and deleting channels. And that's not necessarily to take control away from first-line workers. It's just, again, to create that right, safe environment for them where they feel psychologically safe to explore and not feel like they can make a mistake and accidentally delete a channel. The other thing that before we move on to channel moderation, as I mentioned, is as a team owner, one exciting thing that you can do at a team level is tag by shift. So with this particular feature, people are automatically assigned tags that match their schedule. So that schedule in the Shift app. The schedule is matched and the shift group name is matched. And so, for example, if we have a group that's called Engineer on Call, the tag reaches all the engineers who are scheduled in shifts to work at the same time. And the tag can be used in a chat or a channel post to make sure that everyone who is currently scheduled, all the engineers on call, get the message that is posted to them. When with tagging by shifts, in Teams, it really helps you take out that guesswork. And I know that's something that a lot of our customers have been waiting for ability to actually do some of that dynamic tagging based on who is working when. So tagging by shift can also be backed by major workforce management systems like JDA, Kronos, as well as Amion by integrating them with the shifts in Teams. So we've covered the connectors earlier. So that's something that you can also look forward to when you're connecting your workforce management system with the Shifts app in Teams. So let's have a look at moderation. So channel moderation, I think, is an interesting one. In addition to other capabilities, as I mentioned, that team owners can have, you can also have moderation capabilities. Now, what this actually does is it helps you control who gets to post and who gets to post and who gets to reply to specific messages in that post. Now, the reason why I show that often we'll find some channels for first-line workers where you may want to have only specific subject matter experts or, let's say, an HR professional or a manager being able to post into a particular channel and maybe not necessarily limiting the conversation, but ensuring that one channel just has only specific people being able to post to it. So this also drives trust by first-line workers in accessing the information in that specific channel being the right and the true information that they need. Okay. So one way I just wanted to kind of summarize, we've covered a lot of ground today, but I really wanted to summarize what we've covered so far. And the best way to think about configuring the experience in Microsoft Teams and what, as an IT admin, as somebody who is managing Microsoft Teams, what you can do. So, of course, you have the fantastic task of setting up all the foundations around identity, security, compliance, and all the administrative functions that we've just shown you. There are also some things that, as an IT admin, that I wanted to highlight that you can do to really help the manager or the team owner do as well. And that's really so things like the Shift tab. So if we think about the Shift tab, there's a couple of things to bear in mind. So it's things like being able to help the manager with importing all the relevant people into the schedule, or even telling them how to configure the individual schedule. So things like maybe removing specific leave types, or helping them set up the time clock options that they can do at a schedule level, at a team level. The other thing that I wanted to sort of cover is that although as an IT admin, you get to set up all those foundations, there are some things that are really in the hands of the end user. And in this instance, of course, we're talking about firstline workers. And specifically, one thing to keep in mind is that there will be settings such as, let's say configuring that they can configure directly on their mobile device. And this would include things like notifications or being able to set up quiet hours, or as an example, being able to set up the availability in shifts. So on this, I'd love to hand over to Zoe, who will tell us more about OffShift access controls.
Thanks, Irina, for that amazing demo about the Teams environment. I'll take it away and start talking about OffShift access controls. In general, when we think about compliance, it's really important for a first-line worker to feel comfortable within their environment. And so setting the right compliance components can be huge on both their experience as well as your company's. OffShift access controls is a present-based notification for your first-line workers. So they're notified that they're accessing a company-supplied app and have to accept that they will not be getting paid for the time spent on the app. This feature is great for those of you who need to make sure that you need to comply with labor regulations around a worker's time spent on technology supplied by your company. And it also enables first-line workers to have way more visibility and control over things like their next shift. When we think about how the signals that OffShift access controls relies on, it requires shifts to be configured. So scheduling data has to be inside the app. You do not need to actively be using app for your shift schedule management system, but you do need the schedule to be loaded into shifts or have that workforce management system that Irina talked to connected to shifts and loading information in. This feature is found in PowerShell, so let's take a quick look at how to set it up. Let's say we want to enable the on and off shift present states for your first-line workforce and set the off-shift consent dialog with a predefined message for to show every time the user opens Teams during their off-shift hours. The first step is to create a new instance of the team shift policies. And here we'd give it a unique name like off-shift access message for always and set enable shift presence to true to show the on or off shift presence. Then you set shift notice frequency to always, so the user sees the dialog every time they open Teams off shift, and set message for as the string the user sees in the consent dialog. The policy also supports custom messages that you can define. Using the get command, you can see all the policy instances predefined, including the one we just created, off-shift access message for always, with the right settings defined. Now you can assign the policies using that grant command. Although some activities you should and can delegate to Teams users, as Irina talked about in that last mile configuration, if your organization is using the Shifts app in Teams, you can search the audit log for all shift-related activities. This can help your team keep track of activities like new shifts, open shifts, and requests for time off for compliance discovery and any needs there. These audit logs can be found in the Office 365 Security and Compliance Center that you already know and are super familiar with. You can filter your searches by the specific shift activity, by the date range, and by user. You can also click into each audit log to learn more. All of the shift activities are easily tracked in real time in the audit logs. Finally, let's talk through some pointers for how to have a successful rollout to your first-line workers. The first big question is, how are you expecting everyone to find the right teams, especially if you're in a bring your own device scenario? Well, similar to the experience of WhatsApp and the consumer application that your first-line workforce may already be familiar with, managers configure a team's code sharing so they can facilitate the intro of new members. It's a great way to get the people into the right teams. So sharing this QR code in whatever way it makes sense for your company is a great way to quickly onboard new members. Once you're in that right team, how are you thinking about teaching your workers with the new tools? Well, there are new end user training videos you can download into your team and send throughout your first-line workforce so that they're up and ready to know exactly what they need to do. During the rollout, one important factor is thinking about feedback, both a direct connection with first-line workers to make sure you're serving their needs, so things like forums and any information you can collect on what's happening on their day-to-day and how the technology is helping them, as well as using analytics in Teams so you can track how everything is going. Finally, how do you ensure a seamless first logon experience? Since we all know if you don't get it right at first, it's hard to get it right the second shot. Luckily, our identity team has another session for you. Here are some of our first line sessions to learn more, especially that identity section that talks about how to have easy sign-on, a low-code solution where our Power Platform team talks about what Irina brought us through at the beginning, and our two larger keynotes at the top that talk about the overall vision of first-line workers. To learn more about some of these things we went over, there's a new IT interactive guide on MS Learn that brings you step by step kind of what Irina talked about today. We also have those new end user trainings on first-line features, which is great to try to get teams up and ready and knowing exactly what to do. Thank you all for joining this session, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.